This video will give an introduction to critical reading and why it is helpful to you. It will also show you how you can become a critical reader using a model in 6 steps. Begin by asking yourselves why you are reading a specific text. Then you can select a specific academic reading approach to match the task. If you only are interested in the main ideas of a text, then skim it. Skimming a text means not reading the whole text, but rather focusing on reading the introduction, conclusions and main headings and getting the main points of the text. Another technique is called scanning and is used when you are looking for specific information. It means reading the text quickly, only trying to find certain information in the text. If you need to analyze the text in depth and reach a deeper understanding, use critical reading. In this video I will focus on critical reading. What is critical reading? Critical reading is also known as active reading. It means going below the surface of the text and interacting with it by asking questions and relating new ideas to previous knowledge, linking evidence to conclusions. Critical reading is viewing the text as a portrayal of facts. Critical reading means there may be several ways to look at the subject matter. Critical reading is determining the strong and weak points in a text. Critical reading is making a connection between the text and other academic texts on the same topic. It enables you to make reflections and see how the text fits into a greater academic context. Why and how to use critical reading? Critical reading is useful as the research process is a chain of continuous decisions. These decisions should not be accepted at face value, but rather be questioned and debated. Critical reading can be used if you look at the text as the argument of the writer rather than as a fact. Consider the thesis statement. Many academic papers have a thesis statement. The thesis statement is an idea or result supported by evidence. Why use critical reading? Critical reading and critical writing go hand in hand when you're writing an academic paper. Most of the academic papers you write will involve some kind of reflection on written text. You should use previous ideas and research and integrate them into your own paper, supporting your own ideas. One step towards creating your own argument is by evaluating and interpreting sources you read critically. Being a critical reader will help you to write your own analysis of your subject. Now I will introduce 6 aspects you can look at when reading a text critically. The following slides are based on material that comes from Umeå University. First, before you actually start reading, it is a good idea to ask yourselves questions about the source itself. Who has written the text? Is he or she considered to be an academic authority? Is the text from a university, an organization, or a company? What kind of text is it? Is it from an academic source or a popular source? For whom was the material written? The writing style and structure of a text differs depending on who is expected to read it. Are the intended readers researchers, professionals, or the general public? What is the publication date of the source? Research that was done in 1992 may not be considered valid anymore. Second, you can look at the purpose, why the text was written. Can the thesis statement be identified in the text? A thesis statement is also known as the main claim or argument. It is a short statement of intent of something the writer will try to validate in the text. Look in the abstract, the introduction, or the conclusion sections for the thesis statement. Is the thesis statement clear? Critical reading attempts to assess how a main claim is developed or argued. Can the research questions be identified? If there is no thesis statement, look at the research questions instead. A research question is a question which the research sets out to answer in the paper. Look in the abstract, the introduction, or the conclusion sections for the research questions. In what way is a text organized? How a text is organized may give you some clues about which are the main points and how they support the thesis statement or answer the research questions. For instance, you can look at headings, subheadings, tables, and the introduction of a text. Third, reflect upon the quality of the evidence presented in the text, because this will give an indication of how credible and reliable a text is. What kind of evidence is presented? Is it facts, research, opinion, or personal experience? Is the evidence reliable? Do other sources confirm the evidence presented in the text? Does the evidence presented support what you already know about the topic? Is the evidence linked to the thesis statement or the research questions? Does the text provide sufficient evidence to support the thesis statement or answer the research questions? How persuasive is the evidence? With regard to the topic, how relevant is the theory? Are there better theories for this topic? Is the theory correctly accounted for in the text? A fourth aspect to consider is methodology. Which methods and data were used? Is the research qualitative or quantitative? The kind of methods and data used will in all cases influence the results. What other methods are available? Are there more appropriate methods available for this topic? A fifth aspect to look at is balance. Is there information or arguments absent in the text? How balanced is the text? No text is completely neutral, but some texts are more unbalanced than others. Did the text favor one position on the topic and exclude alternative positions? Are there other approaches available to discuss this topic? For instance, political, economic, sociological, technological, legal, and environmental aspects. Are arguments that disagree with the author's view presented? One characteristic of a strong argument is that it introduces opposing arguments and disputes them. Do you know of any opposing arguments that were not introduced in the text? The last feature to assess is the relation of the text to other sources. Does the text agree or disagree with other texts? If the text disagrees with other sources, it might not be accurate. The argument might also be disputable or addressed from a different angle. Could the evidence presented be interpreted differently? Often there are several alternatives available to interpret evidence. Assess the credibility of each explanation. How current and relevant is the research? Has new knowledge been added since the research was published? After critically reading a text, consider the following. To what extent are you willing to support the author's arguments and conclusions? How the text fits into a greater academic context? Finally, last but not least, how and if the text fits into your own argument and writing. Good luck with your reading and thanks for listening.